Hi, it's Dawn from Ninja Bunny Crochet. Today I have for us to do these cute little pocket tissue holders. So they just hold just a few tissues, about 6 to 10 tissues, so that you can just fold up your tissues, put them in, and toss it into your purse or into your car, and you have tissues with you wherever you go. So let's drop down the camera, we'll talk about the yarn, the hook, and anything you need to make this little pocket-sized tissue holder. So the yarn I use to make the pocket-sized tissue holders is Red Heart Super Saver. This is a real stash busting project here. I just dug into my leftovers and pulled out a ball of leftover Red Heart. You're not going to use a lot of yarn, approximately a ½ ounce, but you might want to just have an ounce on hand just to make sure you have enough yarn. So we're talking about 30 yards of yarn, but just to be on the safe side, you might want to have 40 to 50 yards just in case. So you don't have to use Red Heart Super Saver. You can use any medium 4 worsted weight yarn that you choose. I chose to use acrylic because it's easy to wash. It holds up pretty well over the long haul. But you can use whatever medium 4 worsted weight yarn that you choose to use for your project. I have a 5.5 millimeter hook. Today I'll be using my Clover Amore hook. You'll want a yarn needle to weave in your ends, a pair of scissors, and some stitch markers. I use these locking stitch markers. I used 4 of them because I also used the stitch markers to hold the piece together while I was sewing it. You don't have to use these fancy stitch markers. You can use just a piece of yarn in different color than what you're working with, just so that you can see your yarn. And of course, you want to have a stack of tissues. I have about 6 here. You can fit 6, 8, maybe even 10 tissues into your pocket size holder. So once you have all your supplies, let's get started. Before we jump into today's tutorial, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that little icon down in the corner there. That will automatically subscribe you to my channel, and while you're down there, go ahead and ring that bell, because that will automatically notify you whenever I upload a new video. And if you like content like this, please give it a thumbs up. That lets YouTube know that you like my videos. It also helps me gauge what type of content you'd like to see on my channel. So for today's tutorial, we're going to start with whatever color yarn that you are going to make your tissue holder in, and a slip knot on your hook. We're going to start with a chain of 14, so just start making chains until you reach 14 and come on back and we'll start our tissue holder. Now that we have our chain of 14, we're going to start second chain from hook. The loop on our hook does not count as a stitch, and for this project I suggest flipping our chain over and working in those back bumps of the chain. So we're going to skip this first one and we're going to go right to the second one, and we're going to work a half double crochet. And we're going to go ahead and mark that first stitch so it'll be easier to find on the way back, and then just work 1 half double crochet into each one of those bumps. You're just going to keep working 1 half double crochet into each stitch all the way down the chain. I'll meet back up with you at the end of the chain. We're at the end of row 1. We have 13 half double crochet. To start row 2, we're going to chain 1, turn the work, and in that very first stitch, place a half double crochet, and grab another stitch marker and mark that first stitch. Continue working half double crochet all the way back down the row. I'll meet back up with you at the end of row 2. We're at the end of row 2, and we're going to go ahead and remove the stitch marker and work in that last stitch. We're going to continue working half double crochet back and forth for 20 rows. We've just completed 2, so we're going to be starting on row 3. So we're going to chain 1, turn the work, and work 1 half double crochet back into that very first stitch. Grab our stitch marker. Our stitch count is going to stay the same throughout this pattern, which is 13. And replace that stitch marker. And continue working half double crochet. So we're now on row 3. So continue working back and forth rows of half double crochet for 20 rows. I will meet back up with you at the end of row 20. I'm at the end of row 20 with that last stitch. We're going to take out that stitch marker and finish that last half double crochet. So now we have 20 rows, still have 13 stitches, and we're going to start going around the outside edge. So chain 1, and we're going to turn the work sideways, and we're going to work 25 single crochet evenly down the edge till we get to the corner, and in that first stitch on the corner we're going to put 2 single crochet. So in each corner we're going to put 2 single crochets. So just work evenly 25 single crochet. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'll meet back up with you when we get down to the corner. I made it down to the corner, and in this corner stitch we're going to go ahead and put 2 single crochets. 1 and 2. And this is actually the free loops, or the opposite side of the starting chain. If you didn't work in the back loop, you're just going to have 1 loop on this part. If you worked in the back loop or the back bump of the chain, you're going to have what looks like stitches. Then just work 1 single crochet into each one of those stitches. And I'll round the corner so that'll look nice. When you get to the end of the row, the last stitch, you're going to work 2 single crochets. Again, working up the ends of the rows, work 25 single crochet so that both your sides will match. Then you'll work across the top of your row, and you'll put 2 single crochets in your last stitch, which is right here. Make sure you skip the chain stitch and slip stitch to the first single crochet, and I will meet back up with you at the end. I've made it all the way back around, and that little tiny stitch right there, that's the slips, that's the chain 1. So we're going to slip stitch right here, not single crochet. We're going to slip stitch to that stitch right there, and then go ahead and fasten off. And we're going to weave this end in, and then we'll be ready to we can either slip stitch or sew our tissue holder together. So let me go ahead and weave that end in, and I'll be right back. Okay, here is our piece. Now we're going to fold it up, but we want the right side on the inside of the piece. The first thing we need to do is we need to find the center of the piece. So I'm going to get my stitch markers out here. And I'm just going to fold the piece in half and just grab a stitch marker and just mark the center on either side. And just make sure we have that even. I should probably move over one more stitch. Just like that. So now we have the center marked. We're going to take one side and we're going to fold it up so it lines up with that stitch. Take our stitch markers and just clip it to that stitch. Just like that. And you get two more stitch markers. And we're going to fold the other side so it lines up with it but doesn't overlap. And clip it. We're going to attach it to the next stitch, just like that. We're going to do that on the other side as well. So that holds it right in place. Now you have two choices. You can either whip stitch the ends together, or we can slip stitch them together. I'm going to slip stitch them. So let me drop the camera down so that you can see what I'm going to do. I'll start with a slip knot on my hook, and I'm just going to go through both loops. And slip stitch. Both loops, and slip stitch. Just go right down the row and slip stitch the end together. Now, you don't want to slip stitch too tight, so don't worry about making it super tight. You don't have to make it too tight. When you get to your stitch marker, just pop out that stitch marker. And this is the one where you fastened off, so you're just going to have to try to get it into that stitch. Sorry. Try to get it into the stitch where you fastened off. Might be a little bit quirky to get it in there. Pull it through. And you're going to pop out the next stitch marker. And just keep slip stitching. Right to the end. Pretty simple. just like that. And when you get to the end, just go ahead and fasten off. And then you'll weave in your ends, and you're going to turn and repeat that on the other side. Okay, we have our ends all woven in. We just need to turn the project right side out. Make sure you push out the corners. And there's our little tissue holder. I can add our tissues to it. There's a little project all completed, and just bring in a few of the other ones. There they are. So if you've liked this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to ring that bell. Thanks for watching, and happy crocheting! Bye-bye!